Thank you for joining us on our adventure discovering what it means to be sold out to Christ. This will be a series of messages and thoughts that will draw us all closer to Jesus. Don't just accept your salvation, use it as the beginning of a relationship with Christ and help change the world. Accept all things, expect nothing, and stay focused on Christ.
Hey, thanks for joining me on this video about the Bible. You know, this journey of ours as being Christians has always been challenging, and some of us maybe aren't as challenged as we should be at times in thinking about why do we believe things and why are things supposedly okay and we're to take that for granted because our parents told us. I think we're all old enough, and I certainly am old enough to start thinking for myself and start looking at what do I believe and what are some of the things that I need to make sure that I understand. That's what this whole sold out thing is about. Before we can get totally sold out, we must be willing to do the research and be able to make our minds in agreement with the Christian faith. You know, before we can go very far with our belief system in Christianity, we have to establish the fact that the Bible is the Word of God, and we're willing to accept that. We're willing to be able to defend that, should that ever be brought up. And believe me, especially the young people today, they're going to ask. They're going to ask, well, why do you believe it? So I'm going to try to go over now. Let me explain something to you. I am not a Bible scholar by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just a blue-collar person trying to make sure that I understand what I believe, my faith, and to make sure that I'm on good footing with everything. Once I get comfortable with it, I'll be able to defend it. I'll be able to be a good witness for Christ. And that was my whole intent for this. So, one of the surprising things is I started to dig a little bit more, and you know, that's biblical also. It says when you seek God, He'll make Himself evident to you. He'll make Himself available to you so that you will be able to discover more things. Well, as I started to discover things when you need to prove something like the Bible, you need to prove it to yourself. Now, you're not trying to save anybody with this. You're just trying to get your mind comfortable and around the fact that the Bible is without error. It is God's Word. It's God-breathed. Now, in order to prove that, we have to kind of go outside the Bible and to prove it. We're going to look at some things archaeologically, the finds that have been made here in the last few months, in fact, and especially in the last couple of years, that have been phenomenal in proving the fact that the Bible is for sure one of the most historically accurate books that's ever been written. You got to remember now, we're going to go back thousands of years here to look. Well, one of the things that really shocked me as I'm reading and looking for this is the fact that the Jewish people themselves are the greatest example of the validity of the Bible. Now, you know, you say, well, the Jewish people don't believe that Christ was God and etc., and they're still waiting on him. That has nothing to do with the validity of the Bible. What we want to do with this first lesson, of course, is get one thing fixed in our mind that helps us to establish the pillars of our faith, with the Bible being the Word of God. The Jewish people were the chosen people. That's who Christ came to. That's who God always worked with, the children of Israel. You know, as we go all the way from the Garden of Eden, all the way through to the end, to the resurrection and into Revelation, it's all about the children of Israel. It's about the chosen people, the people that God chose and that Christ called His disciples and His followers, children of God. So I'm going to refer to some notes, and you're going to have some scripture. But first of all, let's look at, we're going to go all the way back to like 4,000 years ago. These were some promises made by God to His children. Now, when we see or read a promise and it is later fulfilled, that pretty well sets the validity of it, especially when we can prove it archaeologically and through other historical events that took place. Well, this is one. Abram, or as we know him as Abraham. I want you to listen to what God promised Abram or Abraham in this for the children of Israel. Listen to this scripture.
Genesis chapter 12 verses 2 to 3. 2 I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. 3 I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you.
Now you can tell that this promise was nothing that was just kind of like a carefree promise. God's promised his children the promised land, and he does not go back on his promises. So we see that in the scripture. Let's listen to the second bit of scripture here that will also verify some things that that God has said.
Genesis chapter 13 verses 14 to 15. 14 The Lord said to Abram, after Lot had parted from him, look around from where you are, to the north and south, to the east and west. 15 All the land that you see I will give to you and your offsprings forever.
Now the children of Israel, just kind of like we are today, they just never seem to, the Jewish people never seem to be able to stay the course. They always kind of reverted back to idol worship and other things, never satisfied, and kind of reminds you of us today, doesn't it? How we go through. So later, Moses did warn all of his people about this, and we all remember the stories of Moses through the Bible and other nations, and it was said that God was going to use other nations to take the children of Israel apart and scatter them. Always was warned, you'll be scattered about the earth, not gathered together, like I said, one massive nation, which had already been formed, and they proved that they couldn't make it like that. So they were allowed to return. I was just looking at a little history lesson, and I'm not very good on history, but I do know how to read. So allowed them to return in 537 and 536 BC. Now this is through history has also been verified that that's exactly what happened. And we can see it in Scripture in the first chapter of Ezra, if you want to refer to that. Now they were removed from the land again a second time in 70 A.D. Almost 1,900 years they wandered about the earth, scattered. Even in World War II, we all know about World War II, 6 million Jews were annihilated and destroyed. 6 million put to death. Isn't it amazing that any of them even managed to survive all of this and this dilemma as it came through history? But on May the 14th, 1948, the state of Israel returned. You know, I think it's so ironical that the first video that we're doing here in order to prove the validity of the Bible and get us more comfortable with that fact is that we're going to be citing the Jewish people as some of the biggest proof, one of the biggest things to prove exactly what we're talking about. This goes all the way back 4,000 years. I want to read to you a caption. This is really surprising to me, but I want to read to you something that one of the authors that I was looking at stated. This is through Sean McDowell and some of his work, and I encourage you to take a look at him on YouTube if you haven't already, and you'll see some of these things take place as far as the proof about the Bible. But it says, how did they manage to survive being twice removed from the homeland, the second time almost 1,900 years, survived the Holocaust when 1 out of every 3 Jews living was put to death, and stave off the attacks of more than 100 million members of the Arab world in both 1967 and 1973. Is that not amazing? Surely this would add a tremendous amount of validity to God's promise made in the Scripture, and therefore the Bible giving it even a stronger stance as to why we believe what we believe.
Thank you for joining us on our adventure discovering what it means to be sold out to Christ. Help us spread the word by subscribing to this channel, clicking the notification bell. Then, most importantly, pass it on to your friends. Remember, it is all about Christ. Accept all things, expect nothing, and stay focused on Jesus.